guys, my name is Maddie, or Books with Maddie, and today I'm showing you a flip through of my 2020 reading journal. Okay, so before I get into the actual flip through, a couple things. So I made a video a couple months ago, I think in September, of a little reading journal tour. So that was when I just started my reading journal, and I decided with that journal that I would do multiple years in one notebook. So this is my reading journal notebook where I keep all of the years tabbed. So I started in 2020 obviously, so I don't have, it's just 1 year right now. So it's gonna be kind of like a short flip through because I only have 1 year in here. Yeah, so that's how my reading journal works. But also I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of reading journals and how mine functions for me. So basically a reading journal is a journal in which you can track your reading, you can keep stats in there, you can write down all of the books you read, you can write reviews. People use reading journals for literally anything, be whatever you need it to be. It's kind of like a bullet journal but just specifically focuses on reading. The idea that I wanted to run with for this reading journal is that there was like no pressure behind it. So I used to bullet journal. I bullet journaled, I did an art journal, I had a junk journal, I had a commonplace journal, I had all these journals, and the reason that I could never keep up with them is because I was so stressed about the aesthetic of them and how they looked, and it was something that was really relaxing to do, but there were some really stressful weeks where I didn't have time to plan out a week and stuff like that. So with this reading journal, the idea is that I'm allowed to mess up, it is allowed to look however I want it to look, and there is no pressure, there is no anything like that. So I'm warning you, this reading journal is not perfect. It is probably not the most aesthetically pleasing reading journal you will ever see, but the point for me is that this is a place where I can literally do whatever I want in this reading journal, and it's okay, and I'm allowed to mess up, and I don't have to worry about fixing the mistake. I can just leave the mistake there, and it'll be fine, which is something that I never did previously in my bullet journals and my art journals and stuff like that. I would, spend hours working out how I fixed this mistake. That's not the energy we're coming at this reading journal with. It is imperfect, and that is the fun of it. So that's the energy that I'm coming at this reading journal with, and that is the energy that will be embodied when you see the overview, wrap-up, flip-through thing. I do not have 2021 planned out yet in this, but it will be soon. I will have a video for that. It probably won't come until February, though. So yeah, before we get into the flip-through, the only other thing is my nails are literally breaking as we speak. They're incredibly brittle for some reason all of a sudden, probably because of stress, and they're actively breaking. So bear with my hands, which will look terrible in the video, but that is just how it's gonna be this week. Sorry, I have to do this on my bed because my desk is not near a lighting source. So yeah, this is my reading journal. It is just a little collection of like books on the front, and I believe I got it at Barnes & Noble. So to open it up, it just says like reading journal here. I'm thinking of like decorating this more, and once I fill out the years, I'll put like the years it goes to, so like 2020 through whatever year it fits up until. After that, I just have my intro page to 2020, so these are just like pieces of scrapbook paper that I put in here, and I just have my reading goal, which was 65 books, and then the total number of books that I ended up reading, which was 113, and then I just have this page that says 2020, which I'll probably decorate more in the future, but not sure yet. And then after that, I just have the overview of all the books that I read, so I just would fill this out throughout the year as I went, and these are just like the books that I read in 2020. I split it into 3 columns, so the title, the date, and the rating, and I just ended up doing that for the whole year. I tried to figure out, so like the end of like June and then beginning of July, I had like 44-ish books, so I tried to calculate and do like 88. It didn't end up working out that way. I only filled out these 2 pages, so I had to end up adding another page at the end. I just ripped out from the back of the book and then put in. So that didn't really end up working out. I will know now for next year to add more space in than I think I'll actually need. I ended up going up to 113, and then on this page, since I have a lot of room, I just wrote a quote. I think it's from George R.R. Martin, and it says, "I've lived 1,000 lives and I've loved 1,000 loves. I've walked on distant worlds and seen the end of time because I read." And I really liked that quote, and it was really fun to hand letter because I haven't hand lettered in a really long time, so this was really fun to do. After that, I just have my monthly overview. So for each month, I just put the number of books that I read and then the number of pages that I read. And at the bottom, I just have the total books that I read throughout the year and the total number of pages. And I'll go more into this in my stats video, which will come out tomorrow. But if you are looking for this information for yourself, you can find it all on Goodreads if you use Goodreads to track your reading. Everything is there under your like book stats or whatever it's called. Next, I have genre tracker, which is a bit of a mess right now. I'm currently trying to figure out what book I'm missing because I added up all of these and it only came to 112. So I don't know which book I'm missing. There's some misplaced tallies here or something, and it's the same for age demographic. So I'm figuring that out right now. But I did mess up with age demographic a little bit. I put 5 categories and I'm really only using 3 for the end of the year stats. I tried to differentiate new adult, but I realized I don't really know how to do that. I'm not sure which 6 books I classified as new adult because in my end of the year stats I only had 3 when I looked at my reading log, so I'm really not sure what 6 books these are. And then for other, I kind of did that for like plays or classics, nonfiction, stuff like that, but I realized that I would probably just categorize those in adult, and so in my stats video where I wrap up everything, I just ended up putting other into adult and then combining YA and new adult to make up all of the categories. After that, I have the alphabet challenge, which is basically just a challenge where you try to read a book for every letter of the alphabet. I didn't end up finishing actually this year. I had 2 books planned, The Poet X and The Young Elites, but The Poet X ended up coming in a little too late and I didn't end up having time to finish. And also I was just like super busy at the end of the year. I didn't really have time. But I don't know if I'm doing this next year. It was like a little bit tricky, but it might have also been because I started it like halfway through the year, so I didn't have a ton of time to actually like work on planning it out and completing it. So I actually don't know if I'm gonna do it next year, just because it was a little bit stressful, but we'll see. Okay, so on the next page, I have star ratings on the left, which is just every time I read a book, I would just put a tally under what star category it was under, and then I put the average rating at the bottom. I think in next year, I'm going to be transferring over into a 10 star system, so I'm going to be taking into account half stars. I'm not going to go like 1 through 10. It's still going to be 1 through 5, but I am going to include like 1.5, 2.5, stuff like that. And then at the end of the year, I'll be able to calculate a more accurate average rating. And the only thing that'll be messed up is like my Goodreads. It won't really be super accurate, but it'll be fine. And on this page I didn't really know what to do with, but I ended up filling out with more stats at the end of the year, which meant I couldn't do it like throughout the year really. But it was like okay, like I wasn't really missing anything on this page. I left it blank just because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and I ended up being able to make this really cool stats page, which I'm really happy with. So up here I have publishing year, so I grouped it into 6 categories and calculated how many books I read from each category. My biggest was 2016 through 2020, which is kind of what I was looking for. And then I had the top 3 years over here, so 2020, 2019, 2017 were the top 3 years that I read from. Over here I just made these 2 pie charts, which were have I read from this author before. 64.5% of the authors that I read from I hadn't read from before, and 35.4% of them I had. Down here I just had the format that I read the book in, so physical, both, which meant reading the physical book and listening to audio at the same time, reading an ebook, or listening to it on audio. Over here I just have the number of 5 stars I read per month, so I only at tops read 5-star books a month, so I just did a little chart using a 1 to 5 scale, and then these are the months at the bottom, and the row below that is the total number of books that I read that month, and then I had the percentage of books in each month that were 5 stars. So while I read the most in like July, the best reading month for me was actually January because 57% of the books that I read were 5 stars. After that, I just had my wrap up for every month, and I planned these out ahead of time, so it was really easy to just add them in. But I just did a little like art piece on the left, or that's how I started it. I just like with a little theme and the number of books that I read and the number of pages that I read. And then on the right side, I did the total number of books that I read with the titles and authors, and then a little like superlative for each month, which were like the best book I read in the month, the most disappointing book I read, and then I add some more in later. And then under that, I just did my favorite quotes from the month, and I just continued that throughout the year. For the most part, it does change up a little bit because I very quickly ran out of ideas. As you can see, March was just like a rectangle. I really wanted the ideas that I used to be like super simple. I didn't want to put a lot of time into it because I knew I wouldn't have a lot of time. So I just kind of tried to keep it really simple for each month. Added in some more throughout the year. So my favorite, my least favorite, my most disappointing book of the month. Yeah, here I added in like surprising. I just did whichever superlative kind of fit best for the month. June is actually the last month that I had a theme. So in July, I realized that I didn't have any room to put quotes, and I really love keeping track of the quotes that I love. So I ended up putting on the left side, which also kind of solved my theme problem, where I didn't really have to come up with a theme for July, and I just ended up really liking that idea and keeping it for the rest of the year. This did leave like a space at the bottom, but I realized I could just do some like doodles down there or even more quotes or whatever. I wasn't really super worried about it. But it worked out really well because, you know, in this month again I wouldn't have had room to put the quotes, so I really liked having them on the left side. And that was it for the year. I really liked having these all planned out. It was super easy to do, and I'm hoping to do something really similar with it next year. But after that, I had something on this page that was for deck of TBR, which I didn't end up liking, so I just put this piece of scrapbook paper over it, and I don't know, I might do something with this page at some point, I'm not really sure. But on the right side, I had my top books of 2020, and I did mess up here, but I'm keeping it to show that I'm okay with making mistakes in here. If you want to see my favorite books of 2020, I do have a video for that, which you can check out if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about these books. But then after that, I just have my 2020 reading reflections, which I'm gonna like cover a bit just because they're like, you know, reflections. But yeah, and then after that, I will just have my 2021 pages right after this. And so yeah, I was really happy with how this turned out and everything. And it was super easy to use. I'm hoping to use a similar format next year. So that was the flip through of my reading journal. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below if you have a reading journal or a bullet journal and some spreads that I can add into 2021. There is one more video this week which will come out tomorrow, and then there will be a week-long break, and then the next video will be out on Saturday. So keep an eye out for that. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And with that, I hope you have a great day, I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great life, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye!